After a 5-game winless run, Aberdeen need to get back to winning ways, starting today against St Johnstone at Pittodrie. Kickoff is at 3 o'clock this afternoon UK time. And today, we welcome back our former skipper, Graham Shinney, who has rejoined the club on loan for the remainder of the season. My thanks to Derek Ironside for allowing me to use these pictures. Isn't it brilliant to get the former skipper back? And this is why today's game is so important. Any slip up, the teams in and around us could potentially capitalise, and we could find ourselves falling down the table and potentially occupy 7th position. But let's hope it doesn't come to that today. Good morning, how are you doing? We've made it. I have no idea what happened 30 minutes ago. It drives me mad, it drives me mental, but we're here, we've made it, and I can see that we're on, so I'm really sorry we're a little bit late. How the devil are you? My goodness, didn't the week begin rather flat? And then all of a sudden, haven't our spirits been lifted by the signing of Graham Shinney? But not just Graham. We also welcome to Pittodrie Patrick Myslovic. My thanks also to Derek Ironside for allowing me to use these pictures. Patrick could become the first Slovakian to pull on the red shirt of the Dons. He's 21 years old. He's also signed on loan from MSK Salina. And Jim Goodwin is actually hoping to make the deal permanent in the summer. Let me tell you a little bit more about him. He's 21 years old. He normally plays in the number 10 role, but he can drop back a little bit deeper and sort of occupy more the middle of the park. He's been capped at many levels for Slovakia, more recently at under 21 level, and he has also trained with a full national squad at training camps. And he also captained MSK very recently. And absolute kudos to Darren Mowbray, our head of recruitment, and to Stephen Gunn, our director of football, for getting this across the line, because these type of deals are not easy, particularly with Brexit at the moment, and obviously where Slovakia is geographically. It takes a lot of red tape, and absolute kudos to the guys for doing this for us. Jim Goodwin said in his press conference that they've done the due diligence on him, they've had him watched live, they've done a lot of video analysis on him, lots of scouting reports. So I don't think he'll start today, but I do hope that we get to see him at some point. I'll come to the team in just a moment. So all of a sudden, you know, our spirits most definitely have been lifted. Now, coming up today, as well as doing the preview ahead of the St Johnstone game, I have an extended interview with TV and movie director Jon S. Baird. Now, if you're not overly aware of John grew up in Peterhead. He's a huge Aberdeen fan, was a season ticket holder at Pittodrie for many, many years, and he's directed brilliant movies like Filth with James McAvoy, Stan and Ollie, all about Laurel and Hardy. He's got a new movie coming out very soon called Tetris, which he shot partly in Aberdeen. And if you recently watched his drama on ITV Stonehouse, which is all about MP John Stonehouse, who was around in the 70s, and he faked his own death. Now, I don't know how you do it at home if you missed it the first time around on ITV, but I believe there's a catch-up system where you can watch it. Watch it. It's just brilliant. It's absolutely fascinating. So what John and I did was basically we chatted over Zoom, and I wanted to get an insight into how the mechanics of making such a drama work, because I find it all fascinating. So we spoke about that, and of course his love for the Don. So it is an extended interview, and I really hope you enjoy it today. But first, let's predict what I think will be the Aberdeen team today. So I think Jim will go with a flat back four today. I think Hayden will play at left back. I think Ross will play at right back. And then I think Hilber will play in his normal role. Hasn't he been brilliant recently? Oh, dearie me. And then I'm fully expecting Graham to play just in front of him. Matt Kennedy, who has come out this week and said he wants to extend his stay at Pittodrie, to play to the left of Shinza. And Leighton Clarkson, who Jim Goodwin has come out and said that Leighton will definitely stay to the end of the season, as well as Hayden, just to the right of him. And then I think it will be Duke, who will play just behind Bojan. So that's what I think the team will be today. To be honest, I'm kind of hoping that's what the team will be today. So let me know. get in touch. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what you think about Graham and Patrick coming on board. I still think we need a defender. It's great to get these guys in, but we still most definitely need another defender. So get in touch. Let me know how you're doing. Right, let's get to this extended interview with Jon. So we began our chat by talking about Stonehouse and everything about the production, and then we started talking about the Don. So sit back, grab a cup of tea, grab a cup of coffee, enjoy your breakfast, and please welcome to Ali Beg ABTV for the first time, Jon S. Baird. Hi Jon, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for taking your time to speak with me today. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you at long last. Let's talk about Stonehouse first of all, then we'll get into the Dons and all that. First of all, many congratulations. I thought it was a brilliant watch. But I thought what would be quite interesting to begin the chat for people that are watching, and I include myself in this, is can you explain the process of how you actually became the director of the show?
Well, when you direct, there's many ways you can get involved with films or shows. In the past, I have done things like my first couple of films when I didn't have anything to back me up. I wrote them myself. I got them funded by, sheer persistence, and then sort of became the director through that. So I sort of willed it across the line. Once you get a reputation, you do stuff that people have seen and a little bit more well known. So once I started doing things like Filth or Stan and Ollie, then people start coming to you with projects. They start coming to you with scripts. And although I had mainly done film, I hadn't done that much TV because I'm not interested in really doing episodes of long running series and stuff. That's not really what I'm interested in. It's more like things that are authored, like mini series, like a 3-parter, or a TV special, like a TV movie or something like that, or actual films. So I had said to my agent, look, there was a lot of great TV being produced in the UK, both in BBC, ITV, Channel 4, and I hadn't really been getting involved in it. And I said to him, I said, look, I would love to do a 3-parter, 4-parter. Could you see what's out there? And it really was as simple as this, Ali. It was the next week he sent me through this thing. He said, look, here's a thing. It's called Stonehouse. It's about the guy who faked his own death in the 1970s. And I just had never heard of it. Like yourself, you said previously, you hadn't heard of the story. And I just read it and I thought, well, this is definitely up my street. I was a politics graduate from University of Aberdeen. My grandmother was involved with local politics up in Peterhead when I was a kid. So I was really sort of interested in the dynamics of it. And I just loved true stories and dark comedies. And then I found out Matthew McFadden was going to play him. So they came to me basically based on my previous work, like Filth or Stan and Ollie. And I know they're very different sort of projects, but they both have an element of comedy. They both have an element of drama. There's some emotional stuff in there. And they said, would you be interested? And I was like, straight away, I was like, this is so ticking all my boxes, And that was, so it was quite a quick turnaround actually, because that was only like last summer. So that would have been summer 2020. No, sorry. So it's not summer 22, summer 21, because we're in 23 now, obviously. Summer 21, got the script then, said yes. I had just finished a movie, Tetris, which we'll maybe talk about later on. Yeah. And then went straight into it, and that was it, So it's there's 101 different ways, Ali, to get involved in something. But with this one, that's how it happened, It wouldn't have happened if I hadn't done things in the past that were similar to it. So you obviously have to build up a sort of level of recognition, etc., blah, blah, blah. And that's how it happened.
Do you know what I found really tough while I was watching it, particularly the first episode, is I was desperate to Google the guy because I knew nothing about him. And I wanted to Google it, and I had to stop myself because I thought, if I Google this, I'm going to ruin the next 2 episodes for myself and the entire story. So I thought what I did was I waited until I finished the 3rd episode and then did all my own research. What I'm interested though, Jon, is how much research do you have to do into not just the main character, but all the characters that are very prominent in the program? How much of that takes up your time?
Not as much really. It depends on how developed the script is, and it
Okay.
depends on which stage you come in at. With us, like with something like Stan and Ollie, the thing I did before, I was very involved in the script at the beginning, and so there's a lot more research into that. Watching a lot of their movies,
Yeah.
Looking at their routines and stuff. That was a hell of a lot of research that I had to do personally for that. This was more of a complete thing in terms of not so much the narrative, but more of the narrative, and I mean the narrative that we have told, the sort of version of the story that we have told, because we're not making a documentary, so
Sure.
not everything will be factually 100%. And it says at the beginning of the show, this is based on a true story. Some things have been changed, blah blah blah, which you do every drama, yeah. So the research I would do in a production like this is more to do with costume, hairstyle and makeup, design, all that kind of stuff. And as a director, you work with your heads of department. So you've got a head of department in every one of these things. Like you've got a head of costume, head of makeup, you've got a head of the design department who builds all the sets.
Yeah.
And then you'll work with all them and you'll do research with them. And then when you come to rehearsals, you'll start looking at real footage of the characters with the actors, right? So me and Matthew would sit down and we'd watch the real Jon Stonehouse and decide how much of that we would take into his version of Jon Stonehouse, yeah.
Okay.
Because I think Matthew's version of Jon Stonehouse is slightly different from the real Jon Stonehouse. We played it more comedically.
Yeah.
There's a great documentary actually coming on ITV. It'll be on ITVX. It's called The Real Stonehouse, and it shows you the real story. So the real guy, who I believe was as much of a narcissist and as much of a fantasist as our version is,
Okay.
but he's also way more cynical. Yeah, he's a nastier sort of guy, I think, in real life. So I think we've softened him a bit.
Okay. One of the things also that I find absolutely fascinating is you must face so many different challenges, especially sort of post-pandemic. What was the biggest challenge for you, Jon?
Oh, right. So the two big challenges on Stonehouse was replicating the House of Commons. That was the first one.
Okay.
And I'll go into that before I go into the next one. So basically, it's incredibly expensive to shoot in the real House of Commons, yeah. And on a modest budget like you have in British television, it's different if you're doing a Netflix show or a big studio American thing. You just go in there and you take over and you pay the bill, right? We couldn't afford to do that, so we thought, right, we've got to be clever. And you'll notice a lot of TV productions and films, they kind of try and cheat it by just working in close-ups or doing it a little bit half-baked. And I didn't want to do that because I felt that he was a politician. There's a lot of the scenes take place in the House of Commons. And by the way that the script was written, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to have big scale, right? So big, wider crane shots and stuff. But the House of Commons was a place that you could do it and give the show a little bit more production value and make it look like a bigger event show. So we thought, right, we're going to put a load of our resources into recreating the House of Commons. So we gave the designer, the production designer, a lot of the budget to recreate it, and then we give the assistant directors department a lot of money to, pay for extras that day, because we had something like 300 extras that day.
Wow.
In the House of Commons, and it's a really expensive thing getting somebody in. You've got to fit them, you've got to feed them, you've got to dress them, you've got to transport them, all this kind of stuff, and pay them as well. So we said, right, so that was a big challenge, actually building out. So finding a place that would look like a House of Commons. We found an old school hall up in North London that had wood paneling, and that was it. We built all this sort of everything else we replicated for House of Commons, and I think that Daryl, who was our production designer, she deserves massive credit for that, because it took us so long to get it right. And that was the one thing that we wanted to do, but that was a huge challenge, because a lot of the time we didn't think we were going to get there. We thought it was going to be out of our budget and stuff. So that was that was a big challenge. The other big challenge, and probably the biggest challenge, was making, how do you make, where do you go to shoot Australia and Miami if you can't afford to go to Australia and Miami? Bearing in mind, we were shooting this just coming out of the winter into early spring. Well, from Aberdeen, March is still winter, right? Okay, we're still thinking March is winter. So we shot this in Spain, in the south of Spain, Malaga, Torremolinos, Marbella, along that coast, the Costa del Sol. We shot that. And we thought, we went for the location scout, the recce, in the December, and it was nice and sunny. We were sitting there having a few beers and stuff, thinking this is going to be great. And the sea was flat calm, and this will easily pass for Miami and Australia and stuff. So we're all very sort of buoyed about it. And then we went back in March, and they had somebody told me they had the worst weather in Costa del Sol for 150 years or something. It was literally like Peterhead. It really was. It was like Peterhead. In fact, it was worse than Peterhead. It was unreal. So we were there for 6 days trying to do all our Australia and Miami bits, and just basically running out of shelters when there was a break in the wind and the rain and everything else to steal shots. So we had a lot of visual effects afterwards to try and clean that up. The sea, at the beginning of the show, you see he walks into the sea, right? He walks into the sea. That's his whole thing. He does the original parent thing. He sort of fakes his own death. And everybody else, there's a few things I've put on Twitter, behind the scenes shots with us in wetsuits and all sorts, right? All the crew are in wetsuits, and poor Matthew McFadden we had two takes to get him in the sea because it was that cold, and it was like, this guy's literally going to get hypothermia. And with 2 takes to get it right. So that was a big challenge, and it was the last week of the shoot. It was the last week of the shoot, and everybody thought that it was going to be the jolly up. Everybody was going to have the jolly up. It was going to be a week in Spain, and the crew had worked so hard in the UK. It was, we'd have a good drink up and all that stuff, and it ended up just being a really sort of it was still fun, obviously, because you're away from home and you're working and blah blah blah. But that was a big challenge. It was something that nobody foresaw that. So yeah, that was the 2 big things.
Okay, I want to.
Sorry, my bulldog has just walked into the room. I'm trying to get rid of her. She's annoying me.
Don't worry.
Okay.
I want to try and put a little bit of a football spin onto our chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was thinking this morning, because obviously you have to deal with a lot of people. You have to deal with teams of people as well. And obviously, I guess, and I'm not trying to speak out of turn here, that you also have to deal with many egos in your industry. Yeah. So it got me thinking, is there a comparison between being a director and being a football manager?
I would say there has to be. I mean, I've never been a football manager. I've actually did a couple of coaching badges way back in the day, at Pittodrie, weirdly enough. But I have never been. I was the manager of Napier University football team when I was there. But I was a very poor one, I have to say. But talking to people who have done football management, mainly my good old mate McLeish, and talking to him about the skill set needed and stuff, I think there's a massive correlation, because you're in a position where everybody's looking to you for the answer, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. You've got your actors, i.e. your players. You've got your behind the camera staff. It's a very similar setup in terms of that. And I think it's about finding out which actor needs more convincing, which actor needs to have, when by convincing, it's like convincing them that your vision is the right thing. Yeah. Because a lot of actors will put up a block and think that their take on it is slightly better or whatever, and you have to find out a way they are. It's about keeping a fun environment, but still knowing ultimately your decision is the one that has to be carried.
Yeah.
If you do something well, you get praised for it. If you do something badly, you're the first one to get criticised, which I think is fair, because you put yourself up there, and it's about knowing how to handle criticism as well. I think that's something. But I think you have to be a people person. You have to know how to see different personalities and not be sort of threatened if you get challenged, but bring that, but don't show weakness in terms of, because I think that sometimes when you overcompensate and you go overly aggressive, that's a bigger sign of weakness than anything else, So I think there's a massive sort of crossover between the two things. You have to be a motivator. You have to be someone who is sets an example, somebody who doesn't panic in a situation. It's like anything really. If you're a captain of a ship, you have to show. Even though you're losing it inside, you can't show it.
Yeah.
You can't let that out. If you've got a bad apple, you have to deal with that in a certain way. If it's just, you got to be a psychologist as well. I can imagine there's a crossover. Now, don't ask me to go in a dugout at Pittodrie and get a result. I would not be able to do that. Would absolutely not be able to do that. But I think if you put yourself up for a position of responsibility like that, whether it's making films or managing a fabulous football side, then you have to accept the responsibility and. But I also think as well, it's who you choose. It's who you choose to represent you on the pitch, as well. And I think the thing that the successful managers do is they choose leaders as well. They choose leaders on the pitch. And the modern game is obviously different. We all loved Ferguson and all, the team and stuff like that. And we've had a lot of successful managers that I don't think that we appreciated enough. Who I think had the ability to pick leaders and to, for their personality to be reflected on the pitch. And I think that's a big thing. And I think that's maybe something that we're missing as a club at the moment is leaders on the pitch,
Because that brings me on really, John, to talk about Aberdeen. What are your current thoughts on where we are at the moment? Because it is flat at the moment, isn't it?
It's very flat. I was at the Rangers game over Christmas there. I was in the Red Shed for the very first time.
How did you find
enjoyed myself. I enjoyed it. I mean, it wouldn't be something I would go back to, mainly because I like to sit, so main stand or south stand suits me better because I like to sit in the middle of the pitch. You get a better view of the game. I think when you're sitting behind the goals, okay, you get my atmosphere and stuff, and it was good at Christmas time because I was there with my old friends and stuff. But to watch a game, I think you're better off at a halfway line as near as you can be. So, but I like in theory what they're doing there for the younger crowd. They're trying to sort of create an atmosphere. They're trying to do all that, and you need that. So, but it's weird because we went 2-1 up, and I just knew. I knew we were going to get. I knew we weren't even going to draw. I knew we were going to get beat just because of. There's a self-belief thing that just ripples through this. It comes from a park. It ripples through the stadium, and it comes from leadership on the pitch. Yeah, and I think that we've got incredibly skillful players just now. I think that the players that we've got. I mean, I remember watching I hadn't seen a game for quite a while, and I watched the Livingston game not long before we broke up for the World Cup thing, right? And I thought they played, even though we got, we got beat that game, right? I think it was 2-1. Did we get beat 2-1 that game? And I thought we played really good football. The fight that we had, we kept going, we were going and going, and there was and I thought, oh, God, I'm really sort of encouraged with this, even though, because I would prefer us to show fight, play really well, get beat, fine, fair enough. But it feels as though, and I'm sure this isn't what is consciously in their mind, when it looks as though you're not doing that from day one, or there's something some personnel has to change, you know, because you can have a best players technically in the pitch, and we've got some really great players, but you need something else as well, you know. You need something else.
Um, I've I confess, years and years and years ago, I remember walking off stage during a
Mm-hmm.
gig to find out an Aberdeen result halfway through a concert.
That's
Um,
devotion.
and I'm wondering if you have ever, in the middle of a shoot, just quickly had a look at your phone to get the Aberdeen update. Can you
Oh, I
confess or
like.
not?
Oh my God, I've done worse than that. I've had the earphones in while the take's been going on, and people have been, you know, the scene has ended, and I'm still sort of listening to the commentary and stuff, you know. So yeah, 100%. I look. I had a season ticket. I think very much like yourself, by what I've read and seen about you. I had a main stand season ticket with my old boy since I was 5 years old. I think we're similar age. We're both 50
Yes,
now.
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you look a lot younger than me, but yeah, we're
Oh,
both
you'll do
50.
for me,
But
Tiger.
but anyway, but yeah, I had a season ticket in a minute, so I saw the whole, I saw the whole thing from 5 years old on the season ticket era right up until I was, well, changed to the South Stand when I was about
Yeah.
14, and then left Aberdeen when I was 20. So I had a season ticket for 15 years really. So um, I can't even. I've lost my train of thought now. What was he talking about? Yeah. I'm a fan. Like, I'm not just a guy who pretends to sort of, oh yeah, dip in and now and again. You know, I've been there. I was at Gothenburg. I was at, I was at all the sort of cup finals, win, lose or draw. You know, I try to get up as much as I can from down here. I get up much less than I did previously. So it's hurt. It hurts. Like, it hurts. You take it personally.
Tell me about it.
Um, because it's part of your, it's part of you, is it? It's part of your
Oh,
identity,
it's right in
and that's why I
there.
try and
It's right in there.
I, it really is, and I try as much as I can, coming from a northeast, to put Aberdeen on the map. Not the club, because it's not my responsibility, but tell people I'm a supporter. But I try and put our area on the map as much as I can, like you do yourself. Even though
That's
we don't
interesting.
actually live there.
Sorry to interrupt. Was that the reasoning behind shooting most of Tetris in Aberdeen, this new movie that you've got coming out?
Yeah, it was one of the big reasons. Yeah, I mean, we were looking at Tetris is a lot of it is set in Soviet Russia, in the late 80s, and we were looking for a place that had brutalist architecture. Um, First of all, we were going to be going to to East Berlin, and then we were thinking about Hungary, blah blah blah, and all this stuff. And then the pandemic hit, and we were sort of curtailed on what we are doing. So it was like, okay. And they said, "Oh, but Glasgow, because Glasgow's all tenements, blah blah. We'll shoot a tenant." We went to Glasgow, and we're like, "Nah." Edinburgh had a bit of it as well. And somebody said, "What about Aberdeen?" And I don't think we've got much up there in that respect. And they said, "Well, we've seen pictures of," and this is people who didn't even come from Aberdeen. This was English guys who was working as production designers, and said, "Oh, we've seen these beautiful like buildings at the Aberdeen University." And I was like, "I was at Aberdeen University. I can't even think." And they said, "Oh, it's called the zoology." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, yeah, of course it is, right?" And then they showed me, some of the sort of the flats and stuff like that. And then I thought to myself, right, okay, if there's a choice between Aberdeen and Edinburgh, we'll be going to Aberdeen every single time. And then it was the whole discussion about trying to convince the council that this was a good idea. And they were very like, "Oh, we've never done this before. We don't know what we're doing." And we're like, "Guys, leave it to us. We're the professionals." And we talked them through. And God bless them, right? They were so scared at the beginning. And then I think they were kind of like, "Oh, it's better if we don't do this in case it's a massive disaster." We talked them through it, talked them through it, talked them through it. The Press and Journal, the Evening Express were very supportive as well. And I think it was like after they got behind it and they were like, potential of a big movie coming to Aberdeen, the council were like, "Oh, we kind of have to do it now. And once they decided to do it, they were magic. And we closed roads and we did all sorts. They were brilliant. They were really well. So again, a lot of it was like, if anything I can do to promote that corner of the world. And we took a massive crew up there. We took 300 crew up there. We were there for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Spent a lot of money in the city. Brung in quite a few million, I think, to the city. And I was happy, and I was really proud. You know what the biggest thing I was proud of was when people came to see the shoot. Because it's a new thing for Aberdeen. Like, we haven't had a big movie up there. When people came to see the shoot, they were so well behaved. Because often when you're shooting in London or LA or New York or even Glasgow or Edinburgh, who have more like films done there, you get the odd person who'll come in, they'll walk through the shot and try and spoil it, or they'll shout as they go by, they'll beep the horn, all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
And we had hundreds of people turning up in Aberdeen, and never had to go again at all for any of that behaviour. They were absolutely brilliant. I was so proud of that city.
Brilliant.
So proud of it.
John, we've run out of time. It's been,
sorry, mate. I've been blathering on here like
mate,
an absolute.
Do not. Honestly, I could talk to you all day. It's been absolutely fantastic getting you on. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today, because I know that you've got a really busy schedule. The very best of luck with Tetris. I hope it goes really well. And keep up the great work, mate. It's great to see you.
Yeah, thanks, Ali. And we'll come back at another time and catch up and see how things are going with the Dons.
Most definitely. Cheers, John.
Thanks, man.
There we are, Jon S. Baird. I really hope you enjoyed that chat with John. It's just, I always try and think of something a little bit different to do, to bring different content for you, but still obviously give it the Aberdeen spin. So I was absolutely delighted to have brought you that interview today. John was great fun, and we spoke for a while afterwards as well. And what a truly lovely bloke. Let's get to some of your chat, because plenty of you are watching this morning. Thank you, considering the issues that we had earlier this morning. I'm very grateful that you've all come back on. Scott Henderson has said, good day from Australia. How you doing? Derek Griffiths has said, good morning. Hoping for a win after 2 good additions to the squad. A couple of defenders in. We will be good to go again. I agree. Paul Donaldson has said, Patrick sounds like a good player. Looking forward to seeing him. Lawrence has asked if Patrick's paperwork has come through yet. I confess, I actually don't know. It's a good question. The Scottish Wildman has said, fit like, how you doing? Delighted Shinny's home. Paul Donaldson went on to say, hopefully you're right, Matt Kennedy will start today. He's been one of the few playing well in the past 2 or 3 matches. I agree. Ian Kusa has said that he thinks that JG won't start Shinny straight away, but he hopes he's wrong. Jason Campbell has said, and here's one for John if he's watching still, I was in the same class in Buchenhaven School in Peterhead as a Jon S. Baird. I wonder if it's the same guy. Let me try and find out for you, Jason. Ian McLeod has come on, has said, spirits definitely lifted this week with Shinny returning. Agree with the team lineup that I put out earlier, but wonder if he might drop Miovski to the bench and play Ramirez from the start. Interestingly, a lot of you have actually said this morning about dropping Bojan and bringing Christian in and playing Christian up front. Malcolm Park said that, morning Malcolm, that Jim had spoke very highly of Christian in training and his great attitude. I'm wondering if he'll start him today to give Miovski a boot up the backside. What else have we got? Jamie Ross has agreed with the lineup. We need to get an early goal that will get us going. He's hoping for a 3-0 win for us today. Neil Sinclair has said Miovski needs dropping. Sean Blues has asked Jon S. Baird to make a movie on our season 1983-84. What a box office hit that would be. Mark Munn thinks we'll go 4-2-3-1 today. McCrory right back, Shinny in, Ramadani holding, Duke Clarkson, Kennedy supporting Miovski. Paul Donaldson has said, when we were talking about when you check Aberdeen results at inappropriate times, he said, I was checking my phone for an Aberdeen result when I was at a wedding one time. Only problem was it was the day we lost 9-0 to Celtic when Mark McGee was the manager. Oh my God. Right, I will get to more of these chats in a minute. Johnny Utah said we've got to keep a clean sheet. Absolutely, we've got to keep a clean sheet. Everyone has mentioned about how much you've enjoyed that chat with John, so thank you for all the comments. Big Ian has said, please God, just give us 3 points today. I think we'll batter them 3-0. You and Jose. I said, Fit Lake from Singapore. Hey, there we go. One of my old stomping grounds. He's hoping that there'll be a good win today, and he says, Mon the shinny. Right, so Jim Goodwin, the manager. As you know, he always gives us a pre-match press conference, so I picked out what I thought was probably the editorially strong quotes here. He says, the group have been great. The atmosphere and the spirit around the place is excellent. The lads aren't feeling too hard on themselves. We believe in what we're doing here. I'll be very surprised if there's a team out there working harder than us during the week. We just need that victory to get us back on track, and hopefully we can do that against a very good St Johnstone team. Let me give you the match stats for the game. Aberdeen have only picked up 1 point from a possible 15 in the last 5 games. As you know, the Dons have picked up fewer points per game than any other side in the Premiership during this time. St Johnstone have only lost once in the last 6 league visits to Pittodrie. And coming into this game, Aberdeen have the youngest average starting 11 at 25 years and 128 days. Meanwhile, St Johnstone have the oldest in 28 years and 227 days. The man in charge today is Ewan Anderson. If you can't get to Pittodrie today, here is Dolly Digital's front cover of Red Match Day, with Matt Kennedy sporting the front cover. And also, if you're kicking about today, I'm going to be on the big Saturday football show on North Sound 1 between 2 and 6 with Ewan Cameron and Stephen Mill and Stevie Cowan. And I'll be giving you live updates from Pittodrie as they happen. So come and join the show. If you haven't listened to it, and I keep banging on about it, it's a brilliant listen because it's the perfect combination for a football show for me, for laughter, banter, really great music, and of course, football updates. So if you're at a loose end, or if you're out and about and you want to keep up to date with what's going on at Pittodrie, I'll be doing that for you from my base here in abroad. So let's see if anything else has come in. My wife is calling. Wait a minute, darling, I'll get to you in a minute. Paul Donaldson has just mentioned that the full match replay is on BBC Alba at 6 o'clock. Gordon Downey has said, good morning from a rainy Dubai. Yes. Not sure if it matters who is playing into the middle, because if they don't get the service, they won't score goals. I completely agree. I mentioned that on the review show about Bojan, that he needs the service. It's as simple as that. Right, guys, we are all done. Thank you so much for watching today. It's fantastic to have your company, as always. I really hope you've enjoyed the extended show. And now, there won't be a review show because tomorrow I'm travelling home. I'm coming home for 10 days. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to fit in a review show, but we will have shows throughout the week, and we will be doing a big preview ahead of the League Cup semi-final next week. So again, as I mentioned earlier in the review show, one game at a time. Let's get a decent performance, get back to winning ways against St Johnstone, which will put us in the right frame of mind for a huge game against Rangers next weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks for being with us. See you again very soon. Bye for now.